Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Nazir Lamed Hey. We are holding on Lamed Dalad Amid Beis, 8 lines from the bottom of the Amid. Amar Mar. Let's go back to the Brisa. Brisa which discussed the various food materials which are asur to a Nazir. All vine and wine related materials. And we had a couple of psukim. The psukim presented a certain sequence. It started with a specific description of specific items. Yain v'sheichar. Okay, so it's a very specific description of specific items. And then the pasuk went on to use a more general, unspecified expression. And then it goes back to specifics. So we have prat, specific language, klal, general expression, and back to prat, to itemization. And the Gemara learned from here that we can include other similar items and add them to the list. It doesn't need to be just grapes or raisins. You can have poor quality. You can have sour, unripe grapes, etc. And that's what we do when we have a prat, klal uprat. It tells us, look, in a sense, it has to be similar to the items mentioned on this list, but we can it gives us the allowance to include other items, similar items with similar characteristics to these items on the list, and include them into the Isra as well. So let's go to the Gemara. Amar Mar. Let's go back to the Brisa, which asked the following question: who's to say that you should include other items? Maybe it is limited to those items mentioned in these Pesukim. Ima prat mefurash pri gomer. Well, look, the specific item or items on the list here are clearly pri gomer, full, proper quality fruit. Afkal pri gomer. So perhaps the only thing that's usher for a nazir is a pri gomer, as opposed to unripe grapes, etc. Who's to say that you can include other items as well? Amris, the response is because then you don't need the whole prat, klal prat. In kain mahi niach lecha hakasa b'mashmoy. What did the pasuk leave up? To you to include, to deduce, to compare. If all that's on the list is what's actually listed in the pasuk. What was left for expounding and comparing Shalai Amre, which wasn't already said? Look, everything is there. If you're going to limit yourself to full-fledged, proper fruit, everything is there on the pasuk. Anavim, lachem v'iveshim, fresh or dried grapes. Haksivi had that in the pasuk. Regarding liquids, yain v'chaimetz, wine and wine vinegar, haksivi, they are also mentioned in the pasuk. So proper food is in the pasuk. Why do we need the prat, klal, prat? Oh, apparently the Torah is indicating to us to, yes, include other items as well, items which are similar in nature to these items. Apparently, you're not meant to deduce kiloshan achron, as you're suggesting now. Your most recent suggestion to only include proper fruit. Apparently, that's not the point of the pasuk. Rather, like our earlier suggestion, which was, yes, broaden the list to include other similar items as well. So basically, according to Shitas Chachamim, by way of this prat, klal, prat formula, we added other items as well. But we are still limited, of course. Yesterday we discussed the alin, the lulavin, vine leaves, vine shoots. Those are not included because they're not similar enough to those items on the list. Asks the Gemara. The Gemara figures at this point that in order to get to that, to arrive at that conclusion, to include some things which are similar and not the others, all you need is a prat and klal. First we specify, and then we say, generalize, and that combination of prat and klal will lead to this conclusion that in somewhat way it has to be like those specific items, but we broaden it a bit. So the question is, why do we need to follow after that klal with another prat, mechartzanim va'adzag, which was the third stage of this formula? We have the prat, we have the klal, and then prat again. Why? Why is that necessary? Once we're going to use this prat to klal formula to include other things, why do you need that second itemization, the prat klal, and then the prat again? The answer is because we can't just work with prat and klal. That's not going to get us too far. This tells you, if you look around in the Torah and you only found a prat followed by klal, that's it. You end up just broadening your list all the way in unlimited fashion. You have no right to minimize, to restrict it, and only include things which are similar to the items, to specific items. Rather, el nasa klal, when the Torah gives you that general term after the prat, the klal is maisaf ala prat. It adds, it broadens it all the way. You include everything. The only time we will apply this method of just including things which are similar to the specific items, to the prat, that's only because you have a prat at the end. That only works when there's a prat at the end as well. Nazir, just like we have the third prat, we have the prat, klal, and prat again. Following the klal, that's the full package. That's the pasuk of mechartzanim va'adzag. So by the Torah adding that prat at the end, the Torah is teaching us how to activate this formula of prat, klal, prat. It only works when you have a prat, klal, and prat. But if it's just prat and klal, the klal has the last word, and you just include everything. It's only because they have the prat at the end, which indicates to us, no, we have to have restriction, we have to have limitation. And here we say, look, we'll include other items, provided they have enough similarity to the items mentioned on those lists. Okay, so now we understand why the Torah concludes with mechartzanim va'adzag, to complete the the formula. Question is, according to one shita back in the Mishnah, this pasuk is not available. It's already been used for something else, in which case you cannot apply it the way you just applied it. Nazir, back in the Mishnah, he uses this pasuk to tell you, teaches us the shir. You're only chayiv if you have two chartzanim and one zag. Mechartzanim va'adzag, right? Lashon Rab and Lashon Yachad. So the pasuk is unavailable. Prata manole. How will he know this? How will he be able to come up with the prat klal prat formula, which teaches us what to include by Nazir? We should include this and not that. Well, according to Elazar ben Azariah, this pasuk of mechartzanim va'adzag cannot serve that purpose because it's already been used to teach us two chartzanim and one zag. Responds the Gemara, you're right. Sabala, Rabbi Elazar. Apparently, this shita of Elazar ben Azariah will not follow shitas chachamim. This entire discussion that we had until now was based on shitas chachamim, who apply the prat klal prat method, in which case they exclude the alen, the lulavin, right? But according to Rabbi Elazar, not Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Elazar, which we discussed yesterday, he includes alen and lulavin, puts it on the list of Yisurim, because he activates a different system called ribuy amiyat, and that ends up broadening it even more because it's just b'mamayit one thing, like inedible branches, but alen and lulavin, which are edible, are included on that list. So apparently Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah, who can't follow the prat klal prat system, will go like Rabbi Lezer. So like Rabbi Lezer, the darash mi'et v'riba, he'll work with mi'et and riba, and therefore you don't need this last pasuk of mechatzanim v'adzag for that formula, and he'll end up including the alin and the lovin onto the list. Another option is k'rabbanan. Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah can follow shittas rabbanan with the prat klal prat. Question was, Chartzanim v'adzag, the last prat on that list, is teaching us something else and unavailable. The answer is, it can serve in a double capacity. It can teach us two things. Two things learned from that pasuk b'Chartzanim v'adzag. If this pasuk is strictly teaching us about the two Chartzanim and the zag, well, then sure, we need the pasuk, but the location could have been elsewhere. Remember, the psukim began with specifics. Yayin v'shecher, right there. It should have added chartzanim and zag amongst the items, amongst the specifics, and then went on to the klal. The Torah doesn't do that. Why did the pasuk choose? Why did the Torah place this pasuk at the end, after the klal? Shmamina. So, by way of placement, we have the words and we have the placement of the words. The words, sure, that's coming to teach you two chartzanim, one zag. But what about location, placement of the pasuk? The fact that Torah places at the end of the list, after the prat and the klal, then comes this prat again, shemamina apparently. L'midaynei bichlal prat. It's coming to teach you this prat and klal method, like we said before. Asks the Gemara, well, then the other way, perhaps it's only coming to teach you the klal and prat. Well, then it could have worded it differently. If the whole point is just to add the prat at the end of the list, but it's not coming to tell you two chartanim and one zag, then the Torah should have said two chartanim and two zagim, or one and one, a chartan v'zag. It should have been consistent. It could have said plural by both, or singular by both. Why does it sort of shift? Mechartzanim, which is plural, v'adzag, which is singular. There's a message. Shema mino lemidrush beklal prat. Apparently, this pasuk is teaching us two things. So, by way of placement, by way of location, we have the klal prat. We can also learn the other pasuk in terms of quantity. He's only chayav if he has two chartzanim v'zag, and that is by way of the specific expression, the plural was turned into single. So the same pasuk will teach us two things. Okay, now the Gemara will embark on sort of a journey, going to address all different types of drashes. We had klal prat to klal, we had prat klal prat, we have miyat and riboy. We're going to go navigate through many of these drashes. And the first question is going to be, well, according to Rabbi Lezer, who learns miyat and riba, and not prat klal prat, where else do we find in the Torah the idea of prat klal prat? Meaning it was apparently something which is universal, everybody accepts these drashes. Where else do we find an example of prat klal prat, if not by Nazir? We do. We find it elsewhere. Rabbi Lezer darash miyat v'riba. Rabbi Lezer applied the miyat and riba formula by Nazir. Well, prat klal prat, the other formula, klal prat to klal menole, where does he apply that rule? Maravol, nafkali me'akro. We find it in another pasuk. This is a pasuk by shomer, right? The person hands his friend an item or an animal for safekeeping, and we have all the halachas, the dinei shomer, when he has to pay, when he's responsible, when he can swear, when he's potter. And the halacha is it only applies to specific items. Davar hamitaltel, something mobile, an object as opposed to real estate. V'gufei imam, it has to be something which has inherent value. For instance, as opposed to a shtar, a document, which is not considered inherently something of value. So in our case, the sugin kama of a mitzvah, and it's based on the klal and prat formula. So the pasuk begins with V'chiyitin ishal reyeyu chamoir, oishoir, oiseh. Right? He'll hand his friend an animal. So we have very specifics here. We have itemized. We have an itemized pasuk. Chamoir, oishoir, oiseh. It's a prat. Then it goes on to a general description. V'chol behema, all types of animal. That's klal, a general term. And then the pasuk comes back. Sorry, so v'chol. The gerus has changed. Sorry, the word v'chol. Right, it says v'chol behema. The word v'chol is a general, unspecified term, alluding to any type of item being deposited. And then we have behema lishmar. Behema is a very specific description, a very limited type of thing. So that's back to the prat territory, chazar or parat. That's once again limiting and being specific. So that leaves us with prat, uklal, uprat. Right? What does that lead us to? Tadan elokein prat. So we're going to go and compose a list. Basically, we're going to say that anything that conforms, anything which is similar to the specific items in this pasuk, will be included in the halachos of Shomer. And so we get to that formula of davar hametaltel v'gufei mammon, as we mentioned before. So everybody agrees to this pasuk and the drasha. Even Rabbi Lezer will, in fact, apply the idea of prat klal prat. Rava Amar, I have another place. Nafkale mehaikro. He learns it from another pasuk. Towards the beginning of Parshas Vayikra, Perek Aleph, pasuk Yud, where the pasuk is teaching us which animals are kosher for karban. So we have v'im. I'll just read the pasuk in its entirety. V'im menatzayin karbanoi menaksavim menaizim lo'ila zochar tamim yakrivenu. So in this pasuk we'll find a prat over to klal, back to prat. The words v'im min has that limited sound to it from prat. Only some animals are kosher for karban. The next word hatzayin is a general description, all types of light animals. Then over to kvasim and izim, again specifics. Chazor or parat, we come back to a prat, which gives us a prat, uklal prat. Iyatadan, elokein prat, you can only include something which is similar to the prat. And the Taisus brings the things that we exclude. It has to be something which wasn't involved in Aver, etc., etc. Amalei Rav Yehuda midiskarta l'Rava. He asked Rava a question. Why do you have to wait till Perek Aleph pasuk Yud to show me the prat klal prat? I have a pasuk closer to the beginning of Parshas Vayikra, pasuk Beis. V'leiluf min hadin kra. Why can't we learn the same idea from the following pasuk? So I'll read the pasuk inside. Daber bnei Yisrael v'mart aleim Adam ki yakir mekem karban Hashem mina behema mina bakar u'mina tzoyin takrivas karbanchem. So how are we going to find a prat klal prat? Very simple. The word min, from, means only some animals are qualify, but it's a prat. The word habehema is a general, unspecified description. Klal. Then back to specifics. Bakar b'tzayin. Chazav a prat. Comes back with a prat. That gives us a prat. Uklal a prat. Iyatadan elkein prat. You can only include things which are similar to the specifics. And we're going to learn from there that only a behema is kosher, not a chaya, right? And not only an actual behema, even the Taisus says, even a shor habar, a wild shor, perhaps a buffalo, that's close enough, it's similar enough to behema, and therefore can be included. So here we have an example of prat klal prat, beginning of Parshas Vayikra. Amar Leisa, Rav says, no, this is not going to qualify. You're trying to exclude chaya from this pasuk, it's not going to work. Min hai lekel nishma mino. You cannot derive, you cannot conclude as such. You can't exclude chaya from this pasuk. Why? Because if you take a close look at that pasuk, havamina, perhaps I could learn as follows: that even when it says habehima, still we're going to include chaya. Just as in the entire Torah we know that generally chaya, even a wilder animal, is b'chlal behima, is included. When it says behima, it includes chaya. And Rad Mefarish brings the pasuk and Dvarim Yudalad, Zoisa behima shateichelo, and then the pasuk brings ayol tzvi v'yachmer, starts with the word behima, and then it goes on to list wilder animals, behemoths, which qualify as, which are classified as chayos. So, just because the pasuk here mentions behema, it wouldn't necessarily exclude chaya. So you couldn't come up with your conclusion. You were going to use this as a prat klal prat and exclude chayos. It's not going to work. Hamalei, so Rabbi Yehuda said, no. Well, I know generally speaking, perhaps chaya is included in behema. There's nothing to talk about. But here, evidently, it's not so. Because take a look at the wording of this pasuk, which clearly mentions, the pasuk clearly mentions bakar and tzayin, which are actually behemoths. Amalei chaya b'chlal behema. You can't include chaya b'chlal behema. Question mark, chaya b'chlal behema. You can't do that here. How can say bakar v'tzayin? If there specifies in the second prat bakar v'tzayin, then it's clear that the pasuk is trying to include the chayes. And indeed, v'avalei prat u'klal prat. So we have the prat klal prat, and yet to done ilkena prat, which leads us to that conclusion. We'll only include things which are similar to the prat. So it needs to be in the behema family as opposed to chaya. So in fact, he maintained that this is a good example of the prat klal prat system. Continues the Gemara. What do we actually find? A brisa or something that actually uses the prat, klal, and prat formula. How do we know, in fact, that this is a valid formula and it works? The Sanya, as we find in the following brisa regarding Maser Sheni. The halacha is that a person, when he separates the Maser Sheni from his crop, he can actually convert that, transfer that kedusha into money, and he takes those funds, brings them up to Yerushalayim, and spends them on food items. Now, it's a pretty unrestricted type of experience. You can basically buy anything, provided that it's food stuff, and as we're going to see, it has to be something, which qualifies. It has to be on that list of qualified food items, as opposed to very few things are excluded. Salt and water, basically, those are the only two things which are not permissible products. So how do we know this? The son even asata kesef. What can you spend your money on? Anything that your heart desires, right? Anything that you're interested in buying, go ahead. Any food items, klal. So that's a general, right? A general, unrestricted type of description. But then the pasuk specifies, b'bakar, b'tzayin, only animals, b'yayin, b'shecher, wine, and old wine. So that's a prat. That's a detail. That's a very specific type of list. And then the pasuk comes back and generalizes. Anything that you would, you wish to buy. Chaz goes back into that general description. So it's similar to the prat klal prat, just over here it's the other way around. It's klal and then a prat and then a klal. What does that give us? Yatadon elken prat. That leads us to the following conclusion. What can you buy with maser sheni money? Ma prat mefurash. Let's compare it to the prat. What characteristics do you find in the prat? We have the bakar, we have the tzayin, we have the yayin and the shecher. So interestingly enough, the Gemara will call them pri. It's a fruit coming from a fruit. It's a product coming from a product. Right? An animal is an offspring of its mother, is an offspring of its mother. The yayin and the shecher come from from grapes, which grew from other grapes, or maybe it comes from the seeds, which come from other seeds. Basically, it's a perpetual system. That's number one. Vigidula karka, it grows from the ground or off the ground. Grapes grow from the ground directly, and bakar and tzayin, and Farshim explain, it sustains off the ground. It feeds off the ground. It's called the gedula karka. So anything you want to buy with Matzah Sheni money has to conform to this type of description. Afkoil, anything else as well, would qualify as long as it's pri mipri, gedula karka, as opposed to those two items I mentioned before, mayim and melach, water and salt, which don't qualify as pri mipri and gedula karka. So perhaps they're gedula karka, but they're not pri mipri. As opposed to fish, Tasty Springs fish are not included. They're gedule karka, they feed off the ground, but they're not pri mipri. Why? Sorry, they are pri mipri, but they're not gedule karka. Right? They certainly pri mipri, but they're not. You don't feed off the ground. So basically, we see from this brisa that yes, when we have a klal and a prat and a klal, we go ahead and we put it together. And we include things which are similar enough to the prat. And likewise, in our case, by the Nazir, we have the other way. We have prat to klal to prat. We end up with a similar conclusion. Okay, now comes a question. Michte, let's take a close look at the klal, prat to klal. Klal prat to klal, what happens? Ke'im prat to dainina. We include anything which is similar enough to the prat, like we just mentioned by Maser Sheni. If that's the question, if that's the case, Klola Basra Mayahani. What's the point of the last klal? The Gemara figures at this point, if it's only klal and then prat, we end up with the same conclusion. We include anything which is similar to the detail, to the specific, to the prat. So why do we need another klal at the end? The answer is, sure you need it. Ahani lo yisufi called the damilei. It's only because of the last klal that we're allowed to add more things. Things which are similar enough to the prat, they're also included. If not for that last klal, you know what would happen? If it's just a klal and prat, you know what happens? It limits it entirely. So we have a general, expression, and then the Torah specifies you have to stick to specifics. Only these and nothing else. It's only because of that last klal, which broadens the list, that allows us to extend it and to include other items which aren't literally mentioned, amongst the prat. Something which is similar enough to the prat is included as well. The same question we have by the prat, klal, prat. Vesu, another question. Prat, uklal, prat. What happens? Same idea. Keina prat aninan. We bring in anything which is similar to the prat. If that's the case, why do we need the last prat? Just say prat or klal. End up with the same idea. Prat basra mayahani. What's the point of the last prat? The same answer, because otherwise you wouldn't do this. Ila prat basra. If not for the last prat, havamina. In that case, I would say we include everything. We have a prat which sort of leads into a klal. That sort of cancels the prat. Havamina, I would say nasa klal moisef ala prat. Right? If you have a prat and it goes into a klal, it's sort of canceling the prat. And I will include everything, even if it has no similarity to the prat. Oh, but when you have a prat at the end, it puts it back into the system, and that gives relevance to the prat, and says, 1 second. Sure, we can broaden things, we can include other things, even though it's not mentioned here, but it has to be similar in nature to the prat. Now the Gemara will compare klal, prat, and klal to prat, klal, and prat. Any difference? It seems so far that they both take you to the same place. We're not limited to only thing mentioned here, and we can include others that are similar to this one. So what's the difference between both these formulas? Let's take a closer look at these two formulas. Train klal prat, when you have two klals and one prat. Right? Klal, prat, and klal, like by Maser Sheni. And the other system that we had by Nazir, a train prat klal, two prats and one klal, like by Nazir. Prat, klal, and prat. In both cases, came prat dainina. We include anything which is similar to the prat. And we put it on the list. Ma'ika, beinu, beinu. What difference, any difference between both these formulas? Ika, there is somewhat of a difference. Klal, prat to klal ends up with a bigger list. It ends up including more things. Dilu tartin klal prat, when you have a klal and prat and then a klal broadens things. When you have two klalim, you end up with a big list. So sure, you can't just include everything. It has to have some similarity, but some similarity is enough. Ika prata, if you can find another item, another detail, another specific thing, the damile afilu b'chatzad, which is similar to the prat over here, even in one element, in one aspect, it is similar only in one tzad. Marbinan. That's enough for us to include it. As opposed to the trei prati uklala. When you have a prat and a klal and a prat, so the prat weighs heavily. It's two pratim. So in that case, you could only include something which is really something which really matches the prat. Ika prata, if you can find another prat, the dam mishnei tzadin, which has two elements matching with the prat mentioned here, marbinan, that allows us to include it. But if it's only one similarity, like marbinan, we can't include it. Okay, so they're both pretty similar, but klal prat to klal allows us to add more than prat klal prat. So actually, the Rishonim ask a kasha. Klal prat to klal allows us to add more, even something which is similar in one way. So then, what was an example of klal prat to klal? Maser sheni. If so, we should include fish as well. Fish are similar to the bakar v'tzayin in one aspect. It's pri, but it's not gedula karka. So why aren't they included? They're dayim b'chatzat. So Rabbeinu Tudrus, one of the Rishonim, says you're right. We're not going to include dagim because they aren't gedula karka, and they're also not pri. Even though they hatch from eggs, it's not called pri. It's not directly born from its fish mother. Interesting point. One more thing. One more comparison here. We have prat and klal. We have miyat and riba. We discussed this yesterday, right? Two different types of limudim, very similar. We have prat to klal, right? Just a two-step system, and we have miyat and riba. Any difference? Michti klal prat, prat to klal. When you have a specific expression in the Torah and then a more general expression. So what happens then? We include everything. Nasa klal ma'asav ala prat. Yisrabi kol mili, right? If it's just a two-step system, then prat sort of merges into the klal and you include everything. What if you have not prat to klal, you have miyat and riba, right? You have umiyat v'riba, nami riba koil, yishabi kol mili. If you choose not to use prat to klal, we have the other shita yesterday which had applied miyat and riba, exclusion and inclusion, a different system. Nami riba koil, it also ends up including everything. Yishabi kol mili. Everything that's included. Ma'ika bein, any difference between the two systems? Ma'ika bein miyat v'riba, le prat to klal. Any difference between miyat and riba or klal prat to klal? Apparently everything gets included either way. There is a difference. Ika, difference as follows. The ilu, and there's a girs on the side which is gerist, ilu miyat v'riba. If you choose the miyat v'riba system, let's say by Nazir, right? That was Rabbi Lezer's shita. The miyat was yayin v'shecha, and the riba was mikoil asher yasa, right? Rabbina nafilu olam v'lovin. Like we said yesterday, it's going to include everything, even the things which aren't strictly food, leaves and vine shoots, because you see, a riba means all inclusive, right? We'll have to include everything. We broaden the list really indefinitely, but leave something out. That's the point of the miyat. Leave something out, and as long as you can exclude one thing, you're okay. What is that? The branches which aren't really edible. Because that will happen because of the miyat v'riba, as opposed to the other shita. Prat to klal, l'lovin in other loyin, or ben Paris is gerus, Olan vilu lovin loy. Whereas the other shita, the shitas chachamim, who apply the prat to klal system, well then you can't just include everything. It has to be really similar to the prat. Right? Different than riboy. Riboy is like a broad inclusion. Prat to klal just says, look, I'm going to broaden the prat. You don't have to be not just stuck with these. You can include something else as well. Other things which are very similar to the prat. So we included things which are food related. Sour grapes, wormy grapes, damaged grapes, but olin and lovin, these aren't really similar to the prat at all, and they're not included. Okay, let's recap today's DAF. We discussed all different items which are asr to a Nazir, wine and vine related items. We had a machlekes regarding olin and lovin. That's the machlekes we had in the Mishnah. Tanakama says it's mutar because he works with the prat and klal system. Rabbi Yehuda says it's asr because he works with the riboy miut system, like we just concluded. We discussed where we find all these types of drashas in the Torah, prat, klal or prat, or klal, prat or klal. We find it by Nazir, we find it by Ma'aser Behema, we find it by Dinei Shomrim. There is a slight difference between the two systems. Klal, prat, or klal ends up including you more than prat, klal, or prat. You have two klalim, it's more inclusive than when you have two pratim. And then we concluded with the difference between prat and klal and miyut riba. All the best to you. Hatzlacha Rabba and B'suras Tevos.